Good morning, everybody, and welcome to MarketStream.live. It is July 26th, and we are taking a look at all of the world markets, which are in the green. We're going to take a look at what's hot after the U.S. Open. The overnight action was brisk, to say the least. You saw Asia to the upside. You're seeing Europe right now trading to the upside, and you're seeing the markets in the U.S., for the most part, on the large cap side, to the upside, but you are seeing some weakness in small caps. Let's jump in and take a look at our fear indicator. There is none. As a matter of fact, we've seen a low that we haven't seen. That was yesterday, right down here at right around $9.20. VIX hasn't been that low since 1993. So no fear in this market whatsoever. An enormous amount of complacency in this earnings season. We do have the Fed that will be announcing this afternoon. We have the Healthcare Reform Act that is hotly contested now in the Senate. We'll see what happens over the next couple of days. And earnings. As I had noted, earnings have been universally pretty solid. We also had some pretty impressive housing data that's come out. We had a very large draw this morning in oil. In the EIA report, over 7 million barrels drawn out of storage this week. That's the third consecutive week of draws, which is firming up crude. But let's take a look at the markets here in the States, and then we'll drill down on some individual stocks and commodities. Taking a look at the Dow Jones, right now trading up 103. You've heard one of the more notable earnings announcements. Boeing came out, really solid earnings. We'll talk more about it. Stocks up like $8-9 right now, even more. That was the initial reaction last night. We'll see if that continues today. But that Dow stock to the upside has the Dow up 99. The S&P 500 up $1.80, lagging its large cap brother in the Dow, which is up about 0.4%. But the S&P's up just ever so slightly. Going to watch this one very closely. I think that there is a bit of a grind up here. It's getting a bit toppy. We'll watch that one. The NASDAQ continues to move to the upside, despite the fact that you had Google that was down over $30 after earnings, still struggling today. But what's going to be notable is Facebook. Facebook is announcing earnings after hours tonight. Watch Facebook. Right now, Facebook is pricing in the potential to have a $6 range going into the earnings tonight. What does that mean to you? You could see it as high as 170 or as low as 158. Now, with that being said, that's basically about a 1 standard deviation move for the next couple of days or going into this event tonight. The moves that we've seen, and especially in some of these large caps, have been way overstated. In other words, they're moving well outside of what was anticipated. Vol's just not around. People aren't anticipating this, so watch this very closely. There has been a little bit of a shift over the last couple of days from large cap cycling out into, we've seen things like small cap, except for today. The Russell 2000 right now is down 2 points, 263 specifically, but it has had an impressive run-up after a challenge a couple weeks ago. Now, with that being said, I want to watch this small cap index very closely. Infrastructure plays, material plays have been really moving to the upside well. That should help the domestically centric indice here in the Russell 2000, these small cap stocks. The housing data came in line, both on new home sales and pre-existing home sales, basically in line with expectations. So when you think of that, you're thinking, all right, things must be okay. We got to watch this very closely. One thing that you want to watch is going to be finance. Finance is a huge component of the Russell 2000 as well as the S&P 500. We're going to see what the Fed does this afternoon. There was a big move in bonds. They firmed up yesterday. Bond prices came down pretty precipitously. That gave a little bit of credence to the markets. You can see right now that the 2-year, the 10-year, and the 30-year are basically trading slightly down to slightly up. So they're basically flat until we start to hear what the Fed's going to do. Now, there was only about a 3% probability that they'll move the overnight interest rate from 1.25% to 1.5%. That I got from the Fed funds tool, from the CME. But there is a heightened anticipation that we're going to get some language on how they're going to start to unwind this 4.3 trillion balance sheet that the Fed's holding. Some of you might say, well, what is that? It's a culmination of bonds that they've been buying and mortgage-backed securities that they've been buying since the financial crisis in 2008 and 2009. So they got to unwind this stuff. They have been the natural buyer for the last 7-8 years. So now they need to find a natural seller. Who's going to buy this stuff and how is it going to impact those markets and the markets overall? This infusion of capital and quantitative easing has been the backstop to the market. We got to see where this thing is going to go. Taking a look at crude oil, as I had mentioned, the EIA report came out, big draw, over 7 million barrels this week. That's a significant draw. That has given a base right now of right around $46 for the crude markets. I'm going to watch this one closely. I think these draws in this part of the season is not unusual. We have a huge glut of inventory. I'm going to watch the rig counts at the end of this week from Baker Hughes. I want to see if they're continuing to bring our rigs online. Because the production that's going to be happening here in the States is going to impact this West Texas contract. There was some positive news out of OPEC over the last couple of days. The Saudis said that they are going to limit exports to 6.6 million barrels a day. Also, the Nigerians have agreed to cap production at 1.8 million barrels a day. So, with that being said, they're trying to siphon off, no pun intended, some of the current glut that's coming to market. So they're trying to hold up the prices. You see that battle right now is being won by the bulls in the Brent contract that primarily comes out from the OPEC nations. The bulls are now starting to take control with Brent up $1.60. One of the more impressive moves has been the move in copper. This is a huge telltale on infrastructure plays. Take, for instance, you see that it's basically been grinding to the upside above its 20 and 50-day moving average. This just helps me for trend. That's it. Anybody that's been getting into copper over the last 20 and 50 days, they're getting more and more bullish. And we've seen that action over the last couple of sessions. I want to be very careful on this trade. I'm going to watch it very closely because the last two sessions have really got the bulls in the driver's seat at 287. Now, it's come off of its highs. We saw it get as high today as $2.90, almost $2.91. These are levels that we haven't seen in literally years. As a matter of fact, we haven't seen copper at this level since 2016, and specifically almost a year ago have we seen copper at these levels. So this is really interesting. I want to watch how this healthcare debate is going to fall out, because that's going to be a big contributor to tax reform, which then will get into the infrastructure reform and components of the Trump administration's playbook. Also, we're going to watch China. China has been putting out some pretty decent economic reports, as well as Europe. You've seen Germany, the UK, and Australia, as a matter of fact, seeing all the currencies start to taper back a little bit. That's taken some pressure off of the commodity markets. Now, the dollar firming up has basically taken the pressure off of those currencies that have been running up, specifically the yen. And a lot of people look at the yen as a currency that if it starts to move to the upside, that seems to be that there's a heightened sense of fear in the market. That's a reserve currency that a lot of institutions will use if there's uncertainty growing. Now, we're not seeing that. We see that through the VIX markets, the volatility markets. But, hey, you never know. CMG, Chipotle, they announced stock is trading now down $4.34. Been quite a wild ride. Coke also, as we talked about yesterday, announced, and they came about 9 cents. Baxter, another stock we talked about last night, down $1.45. As a matter of fact, we were anticipating that Baxter could move about $1.40. Go check out yesterday. I talked about it. The range that we were looking is either $1.45 up or $1.45 down. Well, Baxter came in. They're trading at $1.44 down 2.5%. AMD, AMD came in, real solid earnings. Really big range too. When they initially announced last night, they were down to 13. They rallied back, got up to 15 before the market closed. Now trading up $1.21. We priced in the potential of $1.45. We saw that in the options. Boeing just blew it off the doors. This has been a huge component of helping out the Dow, holding to the levels and challenging that 22,000 level. You can clearly see that it's gapped up here. This gap leaves for some pause, though, folks. Any uncertainty that comes in the market means that anybody that's buying into this or had bought in either 20, 50, or even 200 days ago, they're going to be looking to potentially maybe trim some profits after what's been an impressive earnings cycle for Boeing, up $17. As a matter of fact, when I take a look at Boeing, we were pricing in about a $4.63 move. This is one of those outliers that we saw. The options marketplace was only pricing in for the next 3 days that this stock could be either up or down about $4.63. This stock is up almost over 4 times what the estimated move was. Folks, these moves are now starting to get to levels where they're really exaggerated. And the volatility, which is an indication of expectation of violent moves like this. This is a violent move being up 8%, even though it's a $200 stock. There's no natural sellers out there. So when they start moving, they're moving unabandoned to the upside. This is something we want to watch. There are no natural sellers in these stocks, just buying, and it's showing up on these moves. Another stock that moved after earnings is Wynn. Wynn Casino's down $8.78. We saw Wynn basically pricing in the potential to move about $7.80, so it's superseding its estimated move. But you can clearly see now it is in this negative zone. It's gone through its 20 and its 50 day. This is negative as far as trend in the bulls that have been riding this stock in a very choppy range, but the bulls have stayed in control until today. A settle below the 50-day moving average, which comes in at around 130.75. That would be negative for Wynn. Watch other gaming stocks. Las Vegas Sands being one of the more notable ones that's going to be coming out with earnings. Watch this to see if this starts to weigh on this segment of the market. All right, folks, we have wrapped up all the action that's happened basically since last night going into the early morning session in Europe as well as here in the States. And there's a lot of activity. Watch the Fed announcement. We're going to be online when we start to get that announcement and that information, and we'll cover that to see how that's going to impact your finances. So join us here at MarketStream.live at 1:30 Eastern, 12:30 Central Time. See you then.